Hello and welcome. You're watching To The Point. For over 100 days, the trouble in Kashmir has continued without abating. During that period, nearly 100 people have been killed and well over 10,000 injured, including security personnel. But unfortunately, the terror attack at Uri and the subsequent surgical strikes have deflected attention from this crisis. There are days when the newspapers simply don't report what's happening, yet by all accounts, the situation is close to paralysis. Schools and colleges are closed, shops are only open when the Hurriyat permits, and there is periodic curfew. There are even reports that the government has lost effective control in the countryside. With me tonight to talk about the situation, the alienation and disaffection that underlies it, the steps that must be taken and the capacity or willingness of the government to take them, is a man who has more experience ruling Kashmir than anyone else. He was Chief Minister for 11 years. Today he is the President of the Opposition National Conference. Joining me from Srinagar, Farooq Abdullah. Dr. Abdullah, since Uri and the surgical strikes, news about the situation in Kashmir has virtually disappeared from most papers. So let me start by asking you, what is the situation in the valley at the moment?
Well, I think the situation is very tense. It has not been controlled by the government. Our colleges are closed, our schools are closed.
I know that, as you say,
even the shops are closed, and as you yourself mentioned.
So given that colleges and schools are closed and have been for over 100 days, given that shops only open when Hurriyat gives permission, and from time to time there are also large parts of Srinagar that are placed under curfew, what sort of life are people leading in Srinagar and in the big cities in the valley?
Well, they are living a captive life. They are unable to come out of the house. You already know that over 10,000 people are arrested. Every day they are breaking into homes, breaking their everything that is in the house. It's a chaotic situation, and I don't think anybody in Delhi or Srinagar wants to bother about it.
Are you saying that even in Srinagar the government has effectively turned a blind eye and deaf ear to the situation?
I think they're not under control of anything. They're not controlled of the roads, they're not controlled of anything. So what sort of a government is this?
You know, when you say they aren't in control of the roads, there are reports that apparently in rural Kashmir, the authorities have effectively lost control of the countryside. Is that what you've been told as well?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. There is no doubt. The present unrest has gone into every village. And I'm sorry to say that our younger children do not listen to their parents and are out straight away for independence.
So in other words, the state has either collapsed or it's become ineffective.
Well, whatever way you see it, there is no such thing as a government.
So vast swathes of the Kashmiri countryside are outside the control, outside the authority of the Mehbooba Mufti government.
Yes, and I must say, the 1 week that the Home Minister gave and said that in 1 week we will control the situation, since then it is over 1.5 months that they are unable to control anything, with all people in jail.
One more question about the situation.
And even handing over south of Kashmir to the army.
You're saying none of those steps, none of those measures have made any difference, including handing over South Kashmir to the army?
Not at all. Not at all.
One more question about the situation before I move on to other subjects. Is it deteriorating slowly but steadily, or is it stable but very, very tense and bad? Which is it?
I would say that it is tense, it is there, and we all have to start thinking, how do we get this back to normal?
That's very much what I want to talk about, Dr. Abdullah. But before we talk about what steps are needed to bring this to normal, let me ask you about what this situation has revealed, because I think that will lead us to talk about how we tackle it. The depth of disaffection, the depth of alienation that has emerged in the valley has caught the rest of India completely by surprise. Many people believe it suggests that a lot of people in the valley have lost faith and trust in the idea of India. Would you go that far?
You see, I would like to say the present government, and particularly the PDP, went to the people with the idea that we want to keep BJP out, and they got the votes. Now the very people are now telling them that you have betrayed us. And I think that is one of the major elements which has created this tragedy that we are facing today.
So in other words, the government is looked upon by many Kashmiris, including the PDP supporters, as a government that has betrayed the people. They were elected to keep the BJP out. Instead, they became the facilitation for the BJP to come in.
Yes, you are quite right. Absolutely right.
There is, of course, an opposite view that's put across by the government in Delhi. Rajnath Singh, speaking in Parliament, said, and I'm quoting him, "I believe whatever is happening in Kashmir is Pakistan sponsored." Do you believe that Pakistan is the prime cause of the problem in the valley, or do you completely disagree with Rajnath Singh?
Let me tell you one thing. If your own home is all right, can anybody create trouble? When your own home is not right, stable, anybody can play a game at that time. Exactly that is what has happened. Today, they have an opportunity of playing their game. And PDP and BJP gave them that opportunity.
In other words, you're saying Pakistan may be fishing in troubled waters, but the trouble in the waters was created by the situation in India, by the handling of Kashmir by either the state government or the central government.
Yes, absolutely right.
In which case, where do you think things have gone wrong? Because clearly, these 100+ days of trouble, the fact that almost 100 have been killed, as I said, over 10,000 injured, it may have all been sparked by Burhan Wani's death on
and what
the 8th
about
of
the
July.
ones who are blinded?
Absolutely, and that is another astonishingly high number that must deeply hurt.
You forget that over 300 who are blind.
Which leads me to my question. All of this may have been sparked initially by Burhan Wani's death, but what do you believe has fueled it and prolonged the protests for so long? What is the cause of the underlying disaffection and alienation?
I think, let me be very clear. Burhan Wani was only a spark. The thing was already brewing up. There was already rumor around everybody that after the Eid, the things will become bad. That is how it was. So the spark was Burhan Wani, but the tragedy was already there.
Can I ask you, what was the cause of the problem that was brewing up? What is the cause of the alienation and the disaffection the Kashmiri people feel? Why do they feel so strongly, and I'm using this word advisedly, why do they feel so strongly anti-Indian?
Because such a situation was created by PDP joining BJP and RSS.
So the problem...
And Muslims all over the country fear the RSS.
So this problem goes back to the creation of the PDP-BJP government in March 2015.
Exactly, exactly.
Let me put to you a point made by P. Chidambaram and separately by Sitaram Yechury. Both of them said this to me in interviews in the last couple of months. And I'm quoting Mr. Chidambaram. He says, the cause of the problem is that we have ignored the grand bargain under which Kashmir acceded to India. He adds, we broke faith, we broke promises. In other words, the terms in which Kashmir acceded to India were very specific, but steadily and progressively and sometimes relentlessly, India has gone back on that, leaving the Kashmiri people feeling that they've been, I'm making the word up myself, cheated.
Yes, that is absolutely right. Chidambaram is very right. When I in '96 went to a polls, the Prime Minister at that time, Narasimha Rao-ji, promised us, as far as the autonomy is concerned, and did say that sky is the limit. But independence is not on, but sky is the limit as far as the autonomy is concerned.
And that was a promise never delivered on.
He also went to Burkina Faso. No, and in Burkina Faso, what was his statement? It did not meet what his promise to us was.
In fact, both Sitaram Yechury and...
So we also lost faith before the people.
Both Sitaram Yechury and P. Chidambaram say that there is only one real meaningful solution to the alienation and disaffection. They both say that what one needs to do is to relook at all political developments either since 1947 when accession happened, or at least from the Delhi Agreement of 1952, with a willingness to roll back and reverse those measures that public opinion in Kashmir wants to reverse. Do you think that is a critical step that needs to be taken, or are they wrong?
You know, when we passed the autonomy resolution, and I went to see Bajpai ji because they were going to put it into the dustbin, I asked him, have you read it? Has the cabinet read it? And 3 ministers of the cabinet, that is the chief minister today of Bihar, then the minister George Fernandes, and the third, the law minister at that time, requested that we should read this and then if it needs to be rejected, it should be done. But they did not listen, because BJP's agenda of removing our autonomy is already in their agenda. 370, they want to remove it. So where is that faith?
But today,
even Dr. Karan Singh's statement in the parliament.
So you believe today, 16 years after the BJP effectively ignored your resolution calling for autonomy, today the critical step necessary is to find a way of looking at all political developments since either 47 or 52 and then rolling back those that you can to meet with the public demand of the Kashmiri people. You believe that is a critical step?
I think somehow, even in their own manifesto or that working relationship between BJP and PDP, they have made it very clear that all those stakeholders they will talk to, and they will also talk to Hurriyat. Now, where is that talk? They're all in jail. Where is that talk happening? So that we can arrive at a comfortable solution acceptable to the whole nation.
Are you suggesting that beyond talking to Hurriyat about how you restore law and order and calm, a second important issue to discuss with Hurriyat is the rolling back of the encroachment by the Indian state upon the terms of accession? You're saying that is another critical issue to raise with Hurriyat?
You see, not only that, let's be very clear on some things. What do we want? When autonomy resolution was put forward, we said, for God's sake, discuss this in the parliament. Well, when those interlocutors came, what happened to their thing that they put before the government? Or Justice Sagir's suggestion to the government? They just keep on ignoring what would mend the wounds here.
If I understand you correctly, Dr.
Otherwise, time will come. Otherwise, time will come. 1 minute. Otherwise, time will come when all nationalist forces here will be reduced to zero.
You're saying that what is needed is a balm that will assuage the hurt that Kashmiris have felt for decades. And one way of doing that is to start talks with Hurriyat, but also a debate at national levels, including in Parliament, about rolling back the encroachment, as I call it, on the terms of accession. You need to start that debate at many levels to give the Kashmiris an assurance.
Yes, absolutely right. Absolutely right.
I know this is not the right time for details. Those will have to be discussed when the talks begin. But give me a sense. Since 47 and 52, the Controller and Auditor General has extended its jurisdiction to Srinagar and the Valley. The Supreme Court has extended its jurisdiction. The Chief Election Commission has. Since 65 or 4, designations like Wazir-e-Azam and Sadr-e-Riyasat have changed. Should all of that be re-looked at, or are there some things that you think need to be accepted and retained, like the Supreme Court, like the Election Commission?
Why can't we re-look at these things and then decide? Farooq Abdullah is not telling you not to look at them. Let us see what is, which will not erode the relationship, but will strengthen the relationship.
In other words, look at everything with an open mind and then decide whether you want to keep or not keep.
Yes.
And so you look at
Why not? What is wrong about it?
So you look at the whole...
Rather than having this situation that we are facing today.
So you look at the whole structure of political development since 47, not necessarily to scrap them or roll them back, but to see whether you want to keep them or not keep them, and then create consensus around them.
Correct. Absolutely.
That, of course, Dr. Abdullah, is a feasible path to the long-term solution to the alienation and the disaffection. In a sense, in an interview that he gave to the Hindustan Times on the 30th of August, Ram Madhav, for some, seemed to echo many of the things you're saying. To begin with, he said, we will engage all sections of the Valley's society, which by definition must include Hurriyat. Secondly, he said, Kashmiris could ask for the moon within the Indian constitution. Third, when he was specifically asked, was the government in Delhi prepared to grant more autonomy, his answer was, let them ask, let the Indian Parliament decide, which suggested he had an open mind. But 6 weeks have passed by and the government hasn't acted along those lines. They haven't moved one little finger. So what do you make of the gap between Ram Madhav's words and the government's actions?
Election of UP, elections in Punjab, elections in Gujarat are preventing them to take any action as far as this state is concerned.
Which also means that until those elections are fought and won, the position in the valley will continue to stay the same, if not deteriorate.
I don't know whether they will win them.
But the position in the valley won't change till that point.
That is something that time will show. No, it won't change. You see also, Karan, one of the most important factor is Government of India will have to talk to the Government of Pakistan.
That isn't happening either.
There will be no solution. Yes, there you are. Other than that, people are building more and more. Situation is getting tenser and tenser on the border. I went to the border areas and I saw what the condition of those people is.
Dr. Abdullah, you're saying two very important
It must
things.
be the same on the other side.
You're saying two very important things, Dr. Abdullah. First, it is essential to talk to all stakeholders, including Hurriyat, about the whole range of subjects and issues we've already discussed. But you don't believe those talks will start before the outcome of the elections in UP and Punjab. That's not for another 3-4 months. Secondly, you're saying it's also important to start talks with Pakistan. But at the moment, it doesn't look as if the government even wants to talk to Pakistan. So that too is not going to happen. Therefore, with both these critical steps not being taken, how do you see the future in the valley? How bad will things become?
Well, I think they'll become very bad. As I told Narasimha Rao and also Bajpai ji, I told them a day will come where you will give us the moon with whole autonomy, but there'll be nobody to take it. And that situation is gradually coming to that level. The younger generation is not going to accept anything other than complete and total freedom.
You're really suggesting that the valley could be slipping out of India's control?
Well, I see it. How long will you keep it under the pressure of the army and the security forces and the police? How long?
In other words, the government in Delhi and
How long you will fill jails?
In other words, the government in Delhi just has a couple of weeks or months to act, and if they don't act in that short, limited period, then effectively we will have lost the valley.
I will tell through your channel, I will request the Prime Minister, please, for the sake of the nation, start talking. Elections don't matter. Nation matters. If nation falls apart, what election will they fight?
Dr. Abdullah, let's take a break at that point. So far, you've explained to me in detail how bad the situation is, what you believe are the reasons behind it, and what you believe needs to be done. But I'm going to come back after the break and ask you, will you meet the Prime Minister and try and persuade him to act? Because if you believe the situation is as serious as you've told me, then that is surely a step you must take. We'll be back in a moment's time to pursue this discussion with Farooq Abdullah. Welcome back. You're watching To The Point, and my guest is former Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir and now President of the Opposition National Conference, Farooq Abdullah. One other quick issue, Dr. Abdullah. Have you considered coming to Delhi, meeting the Prime Minister, sitting down with him and explaining to him the gravity of the situation as well as the steps that needed to be taken?
Yes, I am ready to do so. That is why I delayed it, because of these Diwali, and I have to go to another region of my state, the entire Doda area, where recently they have held these RSS rallies, and the Muslims are in terrible fix in that area. I would like to calm their nerves a bit, and then meet the Prime Minister.
So you are proposing a meeting with the Prime Minister shortly after Diwali?
Yes, he is as much as my Prime Minister as your Prime Minister.
As a build-up to that...
Therefore, we must put this matter before him.
As a build-up to that meeting, have you considered also meeting up with your own Chief Minister, Mehbooba Mufti?
No, I haven't met her as yet. We only met all the nationalist opposition parties we met here. I got a whole gen from them because I was away for a number of months from here. So that was the right thing to start.
There is a view that because of her inexperience, and perhaps also for another reason that you mentioned, the unpopularity of the government she heads because it's brought the BJP into the valley, For both those reasons, she may not have the capacity, she may not have the experience to handle what is perhaps the most difficult challenge any chief minister in Kashmir has faced since 47. Do you agree with that view?
I think Kashmir is a very difficult state. And she is facing the music because where I as chief minister could not go when a militant would die, with all the security that I had, she used to go to their homes and become a part of those militants. So today she is facing exactly what she has created for herself.
When you meet the Prime Minister, how will you persuade him that the comments his partymen make about Article 370, their reluctance to speak to Hurriyat, their reluctance to speak to Pakistan are three elements, and perhaps the campaign about beef eating that's being carried on in the rest of India, that these four are critical issues that must be tackled if you're going to find a solution to the present crisis in Kashmir. How will you persuade him about that?
See, I'm a doctor. Never forget that. Even the most difficult patient, the doctor has to deal with. And the Prime Minister will not be any less difficult. But one has to try. The doctor has to try.
In other words, you believe your powers of persuasion will convince a reasonable man?
I think for the sake of the nation, he will have to accept what is right and do what is right.
Have you requested that meeting with the Prime Minister, or has that still to happen?
No, not yet. Not yet, because he was away in Goa at that Five Nations meeting. So now busy in the running around. So once I finish my own running around, I will certainly ask for his time.
One last question. If your meeting with the Prime Minister doesn't produce the change of heart you're hoping, what sort of future do we face in the valley? I'm asking you that question a second time. I know you've already indicated it's slipping out of our control, but I want you to answer it again so that the message goes home to the audience.
I will keep on trying. I am not going to give up.
But how much difference can you make on your own?
Doesn't make any difference. We have to keep on. Sometimes a patient is difficult. He doesn't listen to you. A doctor doesn't give up. He keeps on. And I'll keep on. I'll keep on hammering the door and telling him.
So that
is the only way forward.
So you will not take a no, you will not take a refusal to act from the Prime Minister as the final answer. You will keep on and on trying to persuade him.
Karan, he's also a human being. He will also understand that we are not wrong. We are talking not in our interest. We are talking in the interest of the country, in the interest of the nation.
All right, Dr. Abdullah, you have a Herculean task on your hands, but what seems to be clear from what you said, the future of Kashmir and its relationship with the rest of the country hinges critically on the outcome of your effort to persuade the Prime Minister. Thank you very much for agreeing to talk to us. That was Farooq Abdullah, the longest serving Chief Minister. He's been Chief Minister for a total of 11 years altogether, speaking exclusively to India Tonight. Goodbye. Good night.